have really been scrappy over their last few series. So I do think a matchup between the two is gonna draw a lot of fun camera action from the observers here in the series, Grapes, as Orianna unbanned rarely here in competitive play, but that will be the case this time, as Akali was a direct ban toward Shanks' champion pool. Instead of just snagging that one up, it looks like they're gonna go immediately for the Cassiopeia. We have seen this flexed toward the bot lane, but I would be a little bit surprised if AL decided to give this over to Hope, who is traditionally a weak side king, whereas Cassiopeia requires a little bit more work in the early game to function past the 15 to 20 minute mark.
Yeah, we've seen AL take these mages down in the bot lane for sure. However, Shanks on the Cassio, certainly a strength of his specifically, so would be expecting to see that in the mid lane. The response for JDG, some heavy dive. It is Vi Camille for the jungle support of JunJia and Vampire. They're going to try to get into the back line as soon as possible, and we'll see what AL have to say about it in this next rotation.
I think Olaf would be a great response here. You talk about the dive, you talk about the CC, and Olaf is the champion when it comes to heavy crowd control comps. JDG have obviously only shown 2 of their picks, so this might give an opportunity over to Xiaoxu to really put some kind of crazy counter pick in the top lane to deal with this champion. But we'll have to wait and see what the answer is. There have been a notable amount of range top laners up and available. Jace is still an option. Nara is still an option. Vayne was banned away, but Xiaoxu definitely has a few choices that he could go for to try and mess with this Olaf early. And Tarzan is going to be getting himself the Skarner, which, in my opinion, is his best champion at the current moment, Grapes. He has a 100% win rate on this, has not lost with it just yet, and it's because it just plays to his strengths around being the guy directing the team, focusing their efforts on one specific member, and allowing for that CC to come through and let his lanes carry the fights on damage.
A little surprising that they didn't want to hold that Olaf flex for a little bit longer. Maybe you could see this Skarner into the support position, but in my opinion, we are seeing the top side of the map early, getting locked in for anyone's legend. JDG going to match that Olaf with a Jax for Xiaoxu, pick that he has had a lot of success on in 2026 specifically. Heading into the second phase of bans, a little bit of disparity in terms of expectations. JDG still need a mid laner for HongQ, where on the other side, anyone's legend looking for a support on Kael's side. Still a lot of those heavy roamers available, things like the Alistar, the Bard, the Pike, etc. We'll see what exactly JDG is going to want to take away here.
And the Shen as well. I mean, Shen and Leona have been the 2 big answers when it comes to dealing with Camille's support. And right there, you can see JDG have taken away the Shen. So that's at least one answer removed, and something that Vampire won't necessarily need to be worried about going into this game. But yeah, like you said, I mean, the heavy roamers have been the Kael thing for the longest time here. So I feel like this is kind of playing into his strengths, matching Vampire and trying to affect the map holistically in the early game. But for HongQ, yeah, the Ahri ban is no surprise. The Syndra could also be something I could see him trying to go for, even if it doesn't play into the dive aspect of JDG. It just gives you more crowd control to work with. That Scout of the Week is so good at being able to start up a fight or get a pick, and I think that you've got capitalization on things like the Vi and the Camille to really follow through on that. But the big issue for me just still is that Olaf. If you can't deal with him early on and he gets ahead, Grapes, he just clicks Ragnarok. It doesn't matter how much crowd control you have. He's going to run your team over.
What I like from AL as well is they really have set up a great amount of counter engage to the heavy point and click CC that JDG already have in their kits. If you see the cease and desist or that ultimatum come in on JDG's side, you can throw out the petrifying engage, you can throw out the impale, you can Olaf ulti and just start hitting everybody when you see any vision of them. I think that this Anivia pick really rounds out the composition because it means that there is a little bit more of that backline support with HongQ locking that one in.
It gives you backline support, and it also just gives you a generally good counter pick into the Cassiopeia. This is a matchup we haven't seen in a little bit. I feel like Anivia has fallen off a bit in priority. And also, my biggest worry is how it will operate later on in the game. If JDG do want to play for those picks, they do want to play for those engages, I don't think Anivia is the best champion at being able to follow through on that. But it maybe does play into a win condition JDG have set up with this Jax, which is side lane. You've got a lot of wave clear with Anivia. You've got a lot of side lane pressure with Jax. So I think if JDG can play the map out, as we have been seeing over the past couple couple of series, they can really have a good time. On the other end, though, AL just have a death ball comp. With this Ashe Seraphine locked in, again, I go back to this Olaf. If he gets ahead here, Grapes, and you've got a Seraphine to back him up and give him the heals, this man's never dying, as Breathe and Shanks have not swapped. So am I... Okay, there we go. I was getting a little worried that this is going to be an Olaf mid lane.
Shout out to G4 on the Bangkok Titans in 2015 Worlds against Faker, locked Olaf mid against Aurelia. Got absolutely smashed, but I still remember that as one of the first competitive games I ever watched.
How do you remember these things? Your memory is genuinely insane, my friend.
It was one of the first games that I ever watched like live, because it was Worlds 2015. And yeah, it was a good time. I remember that because Faker destroyed the Bangkok Titans, which I thought was a funny name. Anyway, done with the easy. Okay. Thankfully, we've been saved by the bell. The pause has been ended, and it looks like game is about to begin. Game number 1 between AL and JDG starts right now. An early invade from anyone's legend to kick things off. Kael and Hope obviously on this Ashe Seraphine. Quack's going to have a very good time in the laning phase, so they're going to give their jungler a hand, as it's JunJia clearing his blue buff. We'll see if jungling ends up being vertical, as there is a ward on each Raptor pit, so we should know exactly where people are at.
Just disrupting the early game Vi, right? Making sure that level 6 is a little bit more difficult to come through for JunJia, and just disrupting the tempo of this pick from getting access to that ultimate as soon as possible. Also just means that I think Hope and Kael are aware of the strengths of their 2v2 here, because with Ashe Seraphine, it doesn't really matter if you miss the first wave. As long as you're still able to get priority in bot lane and get shoved there, you're doing your job as this duo in the early game, as they're not going to ding 2 level first, and Vampire being the first one to do that is going to try and go in.
Doesn't find any crowd control though with that hook shot. So instead, we'll just be level 2 once again. Gain Tarzan could show here after hitting level 3 by completing these Krugs. Looks like Vampire was able to spot him, so now JunJia knows exactly what is going on. You can see pings immediately towards the top side jungle of anyone's legend that JunJia will try to take away.
I'm kind of curious on how this vertical jungle is going to affect JDG, because if you actually look at the summoner spells between the top laners, there's a Ignite on the Jax and an Exhaust on the Olaf. So they're not playing to, use these teleport shields and team fights. They're looking to kill each other as soon as they hit the ground. So I think that if there is any blood to be spilled that might insinuate a dive, that'll definitely be something that JunJia or Tarzan look to try and capitalize on, as Tarzan is actually going to be able to save his chickens, so will end up being up a camp over his counterpart when all is said and done, and the vertical jungling effects, I should say, are seen here on the map.
And maybe there was an opportunity to look for a dive, but the wave not in a good enough position. Interesting to note, we have double combat summoner spells up in the top lane. It is Ignite for Xiaoxu. It is Exhaust for Breathe. So these guys trying to make early impacts here, establish lane dominance. Obviously, this is a matchup that the Jax can win at certain stages, but obviously Olaf is going to be able to eventually take over in the side lane once you have that Ragnarok available. He's going to head back to base, pick up components of those plated steel caps, so you can see he's playing a little bit more defensive early on, but once, of course, that level 6 is hit, things can definitely turn the other direction.
It's kind of like a little bell curve, I would say, in the matchup, as hold on, Vampire is in mid.
Oh, and that's a really nice wall used by HongQ as well. Gonna force the flash from Shanks, and he still will go down. It's first blood in for JDG.
Good wall there from HongQ, forcing Shanks to flash, and it's just an easy follow-up there from Vampire to get the kill, making use of the early game Camille impact. As we're not done fighting, Tarzan is Ishtal impacting forward.
We got the double beat drop from Kael for a little bit of extra crowd control. It's a 2v1 here for the Vi, and Tarzan and Kael winning it at this point. Vault Breaker flash to escape, and Tarzan will instead just reap the benefits of this second Raptor camp spawn.
Getting the second Raptor never taken away from you never feels good, and you can see as he is gonna pick that one up, get the healing, so HongQ can't threaten him either. Tarzan already accruing a pretty massive CS lead, especially when you factor in that it's just over 4 minutes into the game. Vampire
For another hook shot, this time on to Breathe. He does not flash over the wall, so it should just be him going down. Looks like he's actually going to flash it this time. The undertow to buy some time. The leap strike from Xiaoxu should still be able to finish it 2-0 for JDG, as Vampire having a very good start to this game on the Camille.
Yeah, the sweep from Vampire, the W, means that Xiaoxu just has to wait for the cooldown on the leap strike, can secure that kill without expending his own summoner spell. So Breathe going to be using both, and Xiaoxu going to be retaining those. So that not only means that it'll be an advantage in the 1v1, but it also just means that Tarzan is going to have a generally difficult time trying to swing this matchup back in favor of the Olaf as we get a replay. I honestly think Breathe maybe waited a little too long for this flash. I was thinking he would flash like a couple of seconds earlier than he actually did, and Xiaoxu, even if he did burn the flash, I feel like there was no way Breathe was getting out of there alive at that point. So I think at that point you just save the summoner spell and cut your losses, but he ends up getting, I would say, probably the worst deal of them all. Uses both summoners, still dies, and now it is a massive lead over to the Jax in this very volatile top lane matchup that we've highlighted.
And most importantly, Xiaoxu didn't use any of his summoner spells on that play. Neither did Vampire, because they're both on cooldown, but that just means that it's a very easy regank, especially once JunJia hits level 6. Breathe going to be pretty in danger once we get towards the later parts of this laning phase. First Dragon secured by JD Gaming, as well as they are off to a great early game. The last time these two teams faced off, Quacks, in week 1, very similar story. JDG dominated the early game, but AL were able to turn things around, have two really nice comeback wins to eventually take the series, and that kind of set these teams on the trajectory that they were on at the start of the year, right? AL got off to this hot start, JDG started off slow, and now we're starting to see the tides turn a little bit on either side.
And that was also the first time we saw Breathe, so trying to, you know, maybe look a little bit better this time around. But again, like we have said, not off to the best of starts. Has made at least some strides to close that gold lead, though, between the two. Tarzan wants to fight him on Raptors again, by the way, but he doesn't have vision or assistance.
Nice flash here by Tarzan to get away from the hook shot, but it's still a 3v2. Petrifying Gaze comes out, and the enchanted crystal arrow from downtown will be able to get anyone's legend on the board. Kill credit to Shanks, his Hope able to contribute to the first kill of the game on AL side.
2v3 be damned. Hope's arrow finds its mark, and Tarzan able to get the deliverance on that CC with the Skarner. Shanks gonna pick that one up on top of that. So will equalize perfectly, in fact, the gold difference between these mid laners, because HongQ got that early gold advantage over the Cassiopeia as well with the earlier gank from Vampire. So already, Grapes, we're starting to see a lot of focus around these solo laners, and you could just tell from the map movements alone that the supports are really valuing trying to get access into roaming while denying the other support the ability to do so. I think Vampire, though, on this Camille will always have the edge in being able to impact the map. So that is something Kael has to be aware of, and just trying to punish Gala here in the 1v2 whenever he gets the opportunity, and make sure that he scales up on this Seraphine, because as we have mentioned, the solo laners are going to get really beefed up if the Seraphine is in a position to drop those constant heals.
You see going for the tier as well. We've been seeing more of this upgraded tier item on the Seraphines, specifically in this most recent split. You do get a lot of extra healing once you finally do have that upgraded, so a lot more scaling available, as looks like Kael and Hope going for the dive onto Gala. Already a flash.
HongQ is here.
Just yet. And they're going to go for the re-engage here. Nice enchanted crystal arrow. Will be able to take him down, but HongQ has arrived. Flashes over his own wall to try to land the stun onto Hope, and he finds the 1-for-1 trade to make sure that, you know, Gala didn't die in vain.
Oh yeah, he's looking for revenge. It'll be a 1-for-1 on the bot side, but then JDG as well are gonna pick up the grubs for themselves. So first Dragon, all 3 grubs going over to them. On top of that, they're off to a really good start, and this is a comp that, like we said, is going to be really effective in the side lanes. You've got a ton of push on a champion like Anivia, especially once you have access to that level 6, which HongQ does, and some wave clear once he completes his items. And then Jax as well, too. Running the Ignite, but still will have teleport once he completes the quest. So I feel like for JDG, that's probably the next step, is just making sure that Xiaoxu's lane is unimpeded. He can have access to that teleport and really start being a threat on the side lane.
should have it in the next couple of minutes, but likely not before this second dragon spawns. JD Gaming already claiming the first one, so it wouldn't be the worst situation for them to give it up. But you could also just look for that 5v5. Most importantly, Breathe also doesn't have the teleport because they both went for the combat summoner spells on top of their flashes. Gold lead coming back to even at this point, as AL have done a nice job to get some gold into the right hands. They specifically have been utilizing this bottom lane to perfection, essentially.
Xiaoxu missing that cannon. Just, you know, we gotta be a little bit critical on that. Especially you've got a 3-hit passive on Jax. It's not hard. As Breathe is gonna find it very difficult to even just survive under his own turret. I like this play from JunJia. Now that you've got the grubs, this is just something that you can do. You know that Tarzan is making a play on the bot side, so they're just zoning the Olaf away from his own tier 1 turret, Grapes, making it super difficult for him to have any kind of resources on this pick.
Xiaoxu once again dominating Breathe just like he did in week number 1, specifically in that laning phase. This Jax pick certainly coming to good use so far as he denies yet another wave from this Olaf before heading back to base and picking up that Hearthbound axe. So getting closer to that Trinity Force completion, but not there just yet, as Tarzan is the one to start off the Dragon. They also have the Rift Scuttler already taken down, so a lot of control in this bottom side river right now for AL.
No top lane role quest complete. Like you said, Grapes, probably wasn't going to be the case for this Dragon, so I think JDG just not having much setup around that bot side river, having invested the resources to put Breathe down and making sure that he was forced to reset and get denied a lot of creeps under his own turret. They are just going to say, you can have this one. We've already got one for ourselves anyway. And it will be the Mountain Drake given over to AL. Something that is actually a little more important than your traditional one-off Drake, in my opinion, Grapes, because the tankiness from Tarzan having completed that Protoplasm is just going to give more survivability over to the Skarner. And like we said, factoring in that Seraphine will just beef up this composition a little bit more. We already said that might be an issue that JDG run into later on in this game.
Now, I guess maybe subjective question that we can approach here at the 12-minute mark was, for JD Gaming, obviously the goal was to roam around the map, right? Have Vampire run through the back streets of the enemy jungle, find these roams onto the solo laner specifically. It's gotten them a couple of kills. Question is, has that been enough for JDG so far in this early game, having given Xiaoxu that early lead, and also having HongQ at 2-0? I mean, do you think, Quacks, that Vampire's done a good enough job so far?
I think Vampire's been doing a good job, but again, the litmus test for Camille is how are you going to operate post 15 minutes? And we're going to be in post 15-minute territory the time this next Dragon comes up. We're fighting for a crab, by the way.
Tarzan gets hit up by a couple of stuns. Curtain Call opening up as the Rift Scuttler is controlled by JD Gaming. I guess we have to call it like an objective now, if that's how much resources these teams are going to be throwing towards it. Teleport into the mid lane here for HongQ to just reposition himself, as AL have the inner pathing into the mid lane, trying to assault that tier 1 tower a little bit, as now Vampire could be under fire. The Excel's impact comes out, but he's able to use that hook shot to escape. Looks like AL's not done with this one though here, Quacks. They're looking aggressive here, but I don't think they're going to be able to find anything.
They won't. And ultimately, I feel like it's HongQ having to use that teleport that really sticks out to me. Because now it just removes an extra little bit of pressure that you can get from any side lane play, any kind of lanes that you want to push before this Dragon, or even before this Rift Herald, which is coming up about a minute sooner in about 90 seconds. So HongQ going to have to be very careful where he steps and how he treads until that comes back up. As it seems like we are actually maybe getting some priority on the Rift Herald. Bot lane from JDG is going to be moved toward the mid lane. AL are going to do the exact same thing, and we're getting resets from the solo laners, so that tells me they actually are going to be okay and comfortable fighting for this objective on spawn. But I think, like we said, for the side of AL, when you've got the Ashe Seraphine, your main objective is getting push, and there's no doubt in my mind that they'll be able to get that over a Jhin Camille.
Yep, doesn't matter if it's bot lane or mid, always going to have that ability to just establish dominance in the 2v2. Kael and Hope looking to really turn this established lane at this point. I think I would say that Ashe Seraphine, the staple bot lane of 2026 so far.
Yeah.
Just in terms of
if
how
there was like a
popular it's been.
championship skin, I would say it's probably one of them. Right? Ash already has a championship skin though, right? Like one of those ones that they go to celebrate.
There are too many
worlds.
skins. There are too many skins out there. I could not tell you. I'm not gonna lie.
I think Ash does. Seraphine doesn't. But Seraphine is about to get a new skin where she's blonde. So, you know what? Giving Seraphine 4 skins a year, I wouldn't doubt that they would do that.
Yeah, it seems like the typical strategy here, as we see JunJia going for a strategic invade as well. Uses the Vault Breaker to get it on out of there. Not a ton of fighting until now over these last few minutes. We have this Rift Herald about, or just now spawning, I should say. It looks like JDG want to contest it. They have a strong top laner in Xiaoxu.
Yeah.
Looks like they just are going to be able to control this side of the map for a bit.
But the big thing that AL have is a teleport on Shanks. He is in the lane, and I like that HongQ is staying here because he's basically saying that if he teleports, he'll be there to cancel him, which I think is valuable. And in the 4v4, I do favor JDG. So AL, unless they get some really good positioning or get a really good encore combo with their ultimates, I just feel like they might not have the damage to really see this fight through, especially with Jax having so much priority and so much power if he does actually enter the fight. But AL have actually pushed them off of the topside river and do temporarily have control of it.
Looks like we'll go back and forth on this for a little bit. I think the most interesting thing right now is that Shanks getting continuously pushed in by the Anivia down bottom, losing a couple of plates here. Vampire looking to try to make an impact on the top side once again. The target will be the tower here for the Camille. The Ragnarok has been opened up by Breathe, who is now trying to just reconnect with the rest of his team. Will not end up going down, but that is first tower going over to Jindong Gaming, and some more gold into the hands of Xiaoxu.
That's Ragnarok off of Breathe as well. He does have teleport if they wanted to re-engage a fight, but I'm not sure they're going to. You can see that Tarzan is waiting in the wings. Oh, they're teleporting. They're fighting, Grapes.
Surprising here is a teleport on the other side for Xiaoxu is going to be used to try to take down Shanks. HongQ throws out the Glacial Storm to try to slow him down. Shanks now knows that this play is happening. He flashes away, but he goes right into the Leap Strike once more. Xiaoxu picks up another kill, his second of the game, as AL instead look to target Vampire before heading back over to the Rift Herald. So it will be that 1-for-1 on the extended play, but it will be AL that come away with a neutral objective.
AL are going to end up getting the Herald, but JDG are going to end up getting the turret and even some damage onto the mid lane one as well. So both teams have some kind of advantage when it comes to having access to this dragon. AL's, though, maybe not going to come as immediately. They still have to finish off the Rift Herald, and it's taken them a pretty long time here. And it's just giving Xiaoxu a lot of room in the bot lane to do his thing.
Finally, that Rift Herald will be smited away by Tarzan. He should be able to use the Ixchel's impact to get away or to look for a play, this time onto HongQ. A nice wall once again separates him from the rest of anyone's legend. Deadly Flourish catching Breathe as well. He does have his ultimate available, but would likely not want to use it. A lot of time being wasted here on AL's side. All in the meanwhile, JunJia's taking this dragon, so will secure that for himself. Enchanted Crystallera going to cancel the curtain call of Gala, but they won't be able to fully lock him down. JunJia now arriving, and the hookshot's coming forward. Vampire thought about going for the play, but instead going to head back with JDG having a massive gold swing off of that last sequence.
And it just kind of feels like AL were disconnected. They didn't have the members necessary to complete those plays with the alacrity that they needed, right? You need to get that Herald so that you can transition it possibly into a dragon. You need to be capable of pulling the trigger on a fight when you know that JunJia isn't in the area. But AL just didn't really have the damage on the Herald. They didn't have the knowledge that JunJia was on the dragon, and they were a little too slow. So JDG get these couple of advantages, and I feel the biggest breadwinner of that is Xiaoxu, who's now onto Tarzan.
Yeah, the Impale just going to buy some time, as it is just an absolute beast of a frontliner here on the Jax here for Xiaoxu. Will end up being a trade as JunJia goes a little bit too far forward. They'll give the kill over to Hope. But once again, it is this top laner of JDG absolutely wreaking havoc here in this game one.
It really just feels like AL haven't been giving the necessary resources over to Breathe in order to combat this Jax, who is just slowly but surely getting ahead in this game. And so going on to the replay, JunJia does fail the Q flash, but still manages to secure that kill. Ult onto Shanks as well to deny some of the follow-up damage off of a really good encore flash from Kael. Will end up trading his life for it, but again, it's more resources into the soul laners of JDG. And frankly, they got that. So I would say, even though it's a 1-for-1, I still feel like they are the winners going away from that fight.
Yeah, the biggest winner out of these last 5 minutes here, Quacks, is Xiaoxu on the Jax.
100%.
Like, he went from about, 600 gold up to 2.5K. In just that short amount of time, was able to pick up basically 2 towers, one with the help of Vampire, and is getting close to his second completed item. When you talk about Jax, one of the original champions released here in League of Legends, this guy, from his inception, has been born to run these side lanes now, right? He has this second item about to come in. He's always going to have this massive side lane presence, and it will allow JDG to pick up a lot of extra things across the map as well.
All right, Dragon not up for 2.5 minutes, but looks like we're fighting anyway, as AL are fishing for any kind of CC, but Xiaoxu maybe has an entrance into the fight.
Gonna get caught out by Breathe for the moment. He'll use the Leap Strike defensively. Encore flashed away from on Gala's side. If he did not end up using that, or sorry, it was going to be Xiaoxu who used that flash, would have been multiple members getting hit by that.
It's a lot of CC from AL. You have to be really careful about approaching these fights because with those flashes being up for a majority of the AL members, they can deny your ability to start up an exchange, but they can also do so much on the return, right? If a play fails, if an engage doesn't go through, then Ashe auto attacks are going to be hitting you, Skarner boulders are going to be thrown at you, Cassiopeia fangs are going to be thrown into your back. There's just a lot of return damage on this AL composition. So when JDG go for a play, they have to be really confident in what they're doing. And I am looking at JunJia to be that confidence, as he has been for this team so many times. And it seems like JDG are maybe possibly confident in going for this Baron as it started up.
They're not maybe possibly confident. They're definitely confident here as they send a lot of resources towards taking it down. They're trying to maybe just force Breathe up to the top side to give more time for Xiaoxu on the bottom lane. Looks like that will be the strategy. They peel off the Baron for now as Tarzan pops the Rift Herald and will try to break open this mid lane tier 1
HongQ as well, no?
Yeah, they're going to very
Where are we going?
bait it out as Hope actually just drives it into the wall. So they're not going to be able to get that charge. I don't think that JDG is going to feel too upset about this one at all.
For sure. Honestly, I feel like AL just realized that the wall was going to be a factor in stopping the Herald too late and then panicked with Hope going in to drive it, but then realized, oh wait, my team won't be around me if I do actually charge this into the turret. So he opted to save his own life in favor of the Herald. Unfortunately, not being able to claim that mid turret. And this is just the difficulty. You're sieging, or attempting to siege against the Ninive, and now JDG have mid turret, have bot turret, have a gold lead going into this dragon, and they just look so much stronger at this point and have so much more control. AL get themselves into the river, but I'm not convinced they can hold onto it if JDG genuinely want to fight them.
They have a teleport from HongQ. He's currently pushing the tier 2 turret up on the top side and will be able to join his team if they want to go for the scrap, but it looks like they are comfortable enough delaying the eventual taking of an Ocean Soul for them to make sure they get more gold into their pockets. It'll be almost the entirety of that tower taken down as AL still looking for a play, as Vampire now running the opposite side as Tarzan runs forward with the Ixchel's impact, not able to find anything else. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, it is Breathe who is forced to flash away. Vampire going to reconnect here with HongQ to make sure he doesn't go down. And at the end of the day, it's the Dragon going over to AL. But a nice chunk of gold once again swinging JDG's direction.
2.5K for Xiaoxu, holding on to that gold lead that he got all the way back in the Dragon before the most recent one, up on that top side. And then now HongQ having a 1.3K gold lead over his counterpart in Shanks. The solo laners from JDG set up to run the side lanes, and they have absolutely been doing that.
Yeah, the problem there, HongQ is fed, but Tarzan very tanky in this game already. The curtain call comes out, 4-shot landing on to the Skarner. Finally has that Protoplasm harness procced. Still should not be in much danger, but you can see the power of this siege that JDG currently have, and now it is the engage from Tarzan. He's gonna get focused down. The Impale comes out, but it's JunJia who secures the kill. Hope is to flash away from the wall of HongQ as the teleport comes in from Xiaoxu to confirm the topside domination here for JD Gaming. That is AL's jungler down, and Jindong heading straight towards the Baron Nashor.
Absolutely masterful there from JDG, pulling the trigger when they realize they have the advantage. Onto the Baron. AL don't have their jungler, but they have ways into this fight. I don't know, though, if they want to try and chance it.
Arrow missing as HongQ still being an absolute menace right now in the side of the Baron pit. The Nash is ticking down. It's at 3,000. JunJia does have his smite and is looking to try to get back into the pit, but Breathe currently establishing dominance. They're going to try to kill him. It is the Baron secured, but maybe the fight can go the other way. Petrifying gaze from Shanks is big, but it's still all 5 members of JDG alive and well. Kael flashes over the Baron pit wall as it's just him and Shanks that are currently left up, and Tarzan running back from a base after respawning. Hook shot lands onto the Cassiopeia. She dodges away from the deadly flourish and still does a lot of damage, and Tarzan has now arrived once again. Hook shot back over, and there is JunJia who is able to shut down the Snake Lady. Tarzan gets one, but he will go down in response. It's an ace picked up for JDG as they head back to base wearing purple and hold in an 8,000 gold lead.
And just like that, JDG have transformed this game into one that is definitively theirs to win. A pick onto Tarzan, the leader of AL, and the rest of the Pandas fall like dominoes, Grapes. Going into a replay here, a little bit worried because I thought JDG giving up for firm control over the pit with the Baron so low could be somewhat worrying. But they get a snap engage, they get the Baron. Kael and Shanks are now completely zoned off. And then look at this re-engage here from Vampire. Through the miasma, he manages to find Cassiopeia, covers that distance. And then all this time, JunJia has been waiting in the wings. He gets the Q Vault Breaker over the wall. And the engage tools, the initiators on JDG, just with perfect timing on using their spells to re-engage the fight after they get the Baron. And now, going back to live, 9.2k in the bank over AL. JDG, like you said, wearing purple and looking poised to take game number 1.
Really great execution here of JD Gaming's composition. We saw it right there in action. JunJia and Vampire collaborating for that kill onto Tarzan. And then once it is a 4v5, the team fighting tool is able to come through as well. HongQ massive on this Anivia. Gala currently also having that 3rd item and the last Whisper. So a very powerful state right now here for JD Gaming. It could be punished here in the support position as Vampire was looking for an aggressive play. Will end up going down, but you can see the response right now for Jindong is to push on to this bottom lane tier 3. HongQ gets a couple of plates, and they can still continue the siege despite it being a 4v5.
That's max level wall, so he is able to actually zone off multiple members of AL if they ever try to go for an engage onto him. And, you know, in defense of Vampire, it's just post 15, 20-minute Camille support things, right? You go for your attempted aggressive play, like you said, Grapes, and when it doesn't work out, that's okay. The enemy team only got 20 gold. So AL get themselves a pick. JDG, in response, equalize the gold by picking up 1 turret, play it, and we're back to even. JDG still in firm control, and they should be able to claim this dragon no problem. You can see AL all gravitating toward this top side, so that just tells me they have no interest in even remotely trying to contest this.
Yeah, I mean, that's a small benefit of AL being able to take that last dragon. It means that this is not a soul going their way, as looks like AL still looking to try to make a bit of a play on the opposite side of the map here. Have Breathe running down top lane, trying to finish off this turret, but Xiaoxu's there to make sure that doesn't happen, at least just yet. We have those objective bounties up. The side laning here for the Olaf, definitely not as strong as the Jackson, so AL going to have to really rely on their 5v5 team fighting, which obviously hasn't even gone their way.
Breathe maybe had a nasty angle there, but the vision game from JDG going to spot that Olaf out on an attempted flank before he can even try to make that play. And for AL, I just feel like you have to try and look for a pick onto a side lane, punish JDG solo laners if they overextend. But at this point, I feel like JDG, if they do let one of their solo laners get caught, it is probably at the advantage of something on the other end of the map, like a dragon, like a Baron that's coming up in less than 2 minutes. So AL, I think, are never going to get an advantage where JDG can't trade for something else on the map, and that just feels really bad when you have a comp like this that does have scaling elements to it, but just isn't really able to deliver any effective win conditions for your team.
Just thinking about angles for anyone's Legend to try to come back into this one. There's still a decent amount of damage that they have in their carries. Shanks having 3 items, Hope also at 3+. But even then, can they even get past this massive front line that has been established for JDG? It's a Guardian Angel now picked up for JunJia. Xiaoxu has some more survivability with this Zonya's Hourglass being picked up. And with all this heavy engage, you know, Shanks and Hope, these 2 immobile carries on the backline, going to be very easy targets for anybody on JD Gaming to look for.
Honestly, I feel like another angle we could look at for AL is Kael is getting very close to that 3rd item, and we talk about Seraphine healing mixed with the Olaf, so that could be something to try and turn the game around, but I mean, Olaf runs your backline, Jax is going to run your backline at the same time, so it's just going to be top laners seeing who can pump out more damage, and Xiaoxu is still 3,000 ahead in terms of gold compared to this Olaf, so I would favor him to rip the enemy backliner apart more effectively than Breathe at this point. So it's a tough game here for AL, and yes, they have locked playoffs, but I think now it's just kind of a question of how convincing can they look once playoffs come around the corner, because as we established in the pre-show, Grapes, it is about them being able to return to the international stage, because they are the only top 3 organization in the LPL that hasn't been in the international area here in 2026.
Yeah, even locking that top 2 in the regular season could get them that first round bye, get them closer to clinching a spot at Worlds. Lot of opportunities still for that to happen, but JD Gaming have been to the international, and they are up 10,000 gold currently in this game. Keep an eye on JunJia and Vampire. Would like to see them target Shanks, find this Cassiopeia, and say she's the one that we're looking for. Tarzan going forward with the Ixchal's impact, and now the poke can begin. HongQ making things nigh impossible for the engaged. Kael going to pull the trigger. Only finding the encore onto JunJia. And now Breathe is stuck between the wall, and the rest of his own team has to use the Ragnarok defensively, as now the engage can continue on JD Gaming's side. Xiaoxu still pushing down on the bottom side, as JDG now just trying to deny the bases. The Baron is up, and Jindong should be able to start this one up with the health bars in terrible positions on AL's side.
AL are just being suffocated here. I mean, JDG are denying any entrance into any kind of fight that AL are looking for. These walls from HongQ are so damn difficult for the Pandas to try and manage. They're going to still try and look for some kind of poke. Hope has to flash.
It's a big cooldown. No longer available on the Ash, who already is a vulnerable target. Enchanted Crystallero, though, going to connect onto HongQ. Doesn't have the Banshees this time around. This could be the play.
They've got HongQ!
We're looking for. There's the Impale.
Egg!
There's the egg being popped. Sees an assist onto the back line, but JunJia's not able to get anything done. Petrifying Gaze finds 2 members as the ultimatum comes out. The big shutdown already picked up for Shanks, but he's stuck in the Camille ulti. Will be able to escape as Breathe flashes in. Double kill for the Cassio. Anyone's Legend are doing it. Their JunJia still going to be able to get 1 down, but it's a triple kill for Shanks. Make it a quadra kill, and now it's Gala stuck in a 1v2. Hope's going to try to chase him down. It's 80 carry against 80 carry, and it'll be won by the Ash. It's an ace picked up for anyone's Legend as they come back in a huge way in the mid lane.
10,000 gold down, by the way, Grapes, cut in half. 1 team fight going the way of AL, and Hope is in the mid lane. Will claim the tier 1 in there as well. And we got to get a replay on this. The game has been flipped on its head. AL have found their mark. It's a flash It's a flash ultimate from Tarzan. Anivia goes into the egg. There's no wall to split up AL. There's no damage from the Anivia. It's a 4v5 essentially, and with the healing from this Seraphine finally having scaled up and Breathe onto the back line of JDG, everything goes right for AL at the perfect time. And they find their fight to potentially get back into this game and to try and upset what was a 10,000 gold lead.
Look at what Hope was able to do in that fight. Almost 9,000 damage on the Ashe. Turns out she's the one that JD Gaming had to worry about, as the Guardian Angel has been already picked up. That is going to be even more of a challenge for JDG to try to break through. HongQ getting picked was the reason for that fight to go AL's way, so he's going to have to really keep things safe as we wait for the next eventual breakout. Gold lead has been cut in half here, Quacks. Only 5,000. AL were able to pick up Dragon off of screen in the replay. Baron still is up for the taking. Look at Vampire looking for a flank, but Tarzan's going to spot him out. And all of a sudden, this Camille is on a wild goose chase on out of there.
And this is the difficulty. I mean, we've said it so many times. I've said it so many times. Camille support now, when the game is in an extremely volatile state, Camille support has maybe a tenth of the value of someone like Seraphine, and has now hold on. Tarzan's pick.
Tarzan just gets caught out. HongQ was the one who got found in that last fight, and he's the one to find the enemy jungler in this one. Shanks able to get the kill onto JunJia in response as the Encore doesn't find a target.
Breathe is stuck
in the Glacial Storm. Has to burn the Ragnarok, and Xiaoxu now out of position. Finds a double counter-strike and is able to use that Zonias. And in goes Vampire with the ultimatum. Hope has the Guardian Angel pop, but Shanks is still full HP. Still going to be able to fight this out in the 3v3. Double stun lands from the Anivia though. And HongQ able to take down Hope again. Flash over the wall. Another stun. Another kill this time for Shanks. He will drop. It is the ace once again picked up for JD Gaming. And they'll be able to bounce back from that last team fight win to march through the top lane and take game one.
I don't know if they'll be able to take game one. I mean, Tarzan's up in 10 seconds, but Kael is 10 after that. I think JDG have to look for an end here. You saw what happened when AL win one team fight. That gold lead gets cut in half.
They can't do
JDG, they can't do it. Tarzan's here. Kael's going to be up soon. You may not have the damage as AL, but you have the wave clear. He has to try and thin this out.
Nice job by Tarzan, forcing aggro on the minions towards himself. Will buy some time finding the Impale onto the Jhin, but there's still no damage on anyone.
He's alive!
Inside. It's 10 seconds till Hope respawns, and now JDG going to be out of position. Beat drop lands onto HongQ. They find the stun. They find the hook shot, and they find the one shot onto the Seraphine. But now the Ashe has arrived. Entrenched Crystalero not going to connect, but now JD Gaming have to think about being a little bit more defensive. Second Nexus tower going to go down, as it is now the open Nexus. Hook shot lands onto Hope. They have found the Ashe, but the Ashe has found two more members, as the rest of anyone's legend have respawned. JunJia goes forward, finds the cease and desist to eventually take down Tarzan, but now he's stuck in a 1v2. Shanks should be able to take him down, and AL will hold the line.
They'll hold the line. For now, it's a 2v2. Xiaoxu has entered the fray. There's no Ragnarok for Breathe. Shanks still has Petrifying Gaze, but this is a level 20 Jax.
Dashes forward, finds a two-man counter-strike. Shanks has to do a ton of work here. Exhaust on to Xiaoxu. Force shot not connecting, but the Nexus might be the target instead. Xiaoxu takes down.
They're gonna do it!
And the target will be the enemy Nexus. The Petrifying Gaze is used right as the enemy base will go down, as JD Gaming hold the line and will take game one of this series.
Banger game number one. If ever I've seen it, Grapes. A really convincing early and mid game, and most of the late game from JDG, but then AL get that one team fight advantage, and suddenly doubts start creeping in. Can AL bring it back? And just as quickly as the thoughts about a comeback came, they went, and AL, unfortunately, are going to be the ones to fall into that game. JDG will take game number one. And just genuinely really good play from the solo laners here, Grapes. Gotta highlight Xiaoxu and HongQ really stepping up in this game.
Yeah, I mean, aside from that one death where he got hit by an arrow of Gala's, HongQ playing a near flawless game on that Anivia, able to control so much space with the help of his Glacial Storms. Those walls, just really high value here in this game. Yeah. And of course, it was Xiaoxu on the Jax, this counter pick into the Olaf that was able to get that early lead and snowball it from there. It never felt like Breathe was in as similar of a position as the JDG top laner when these guys took either into the side lanes or into these 5-on-5 team fights.
Yeah, really, it just felt like the solo laners and the Jax and the Anivia, playing to having the side lane threat, playing the map, playing for getting plates, and that was the main way I feel that the solo laners actually ended up getting a majority of their gold lead, or getting into a position where they could really start affecting these team fights in a more main character-esque way. We saw Xiaoxu getting, like you said, essentially 2 turrets when anyone's legend tried to pull the trigger really fast on the Herald. That took them, I think, a lot longer than intended, and then by the time they get back to the bot lane to actually deal with the Jax, he already has 2 turrets, was already in a gold lead, but then that basically gets tripled in the span of a minute. A similar thing happened to HongQ. AL go for a dragon. HongQ gets a turret for himself and balloons that gold lead onto the Anivia. So I feel like the takeaway from this game, Grapes, is just that JDG played the map better, and then from that map play and getting the gold from all of those plates on the turret, they were able to run over those team fights, minus the 1 team fight.
Yeah, and you know what? If you build that big of a lead, you can afford one of those team fights, right? Just, yeah. You know, stuff happens. HongQ didn't have his spell shield up for that specific moment, ends up getting arrowed, and this is the fight we're actually going to start with here.
I love that.
It was the first time that AL really felt like they had an opportunity to get back into this game.
It does, and honestly, I feel like the lack of Anivia really just, in this fight, it's the one thing that AL were able to really definitively win over JDG. The walls on this Anivia were just brutal. I mean, when you've got an Ashe, when you've got an Olaf, you don't have the crowd control, or not the crowd control, the mobility, I should say, to get over the wall or to really circumvent that advantage that the Anivia brings. So that was just felt throughout the entire game. Anytime we saw fights in a choke point, we would see plays like this, where Tarzan, what are you going to do? Absolutely nothing. He's just going to be forced to take all of the damage, all of the CC capitalization from JDG, and just zoning off certain members of AL was what won them so many fights, was what started them off on the right foot in so many cases. And the one time they didn't have the Anivia, Grapes, they lost. So all of this is to say I would probably give HongQ player of the game.
Yeah, him on this Anivia, throwing out the walls, this double stun here, a full-on 10th Avenue freeze out onto the main carries of anyone's legend. They end up just dropping instantly after all this crowd control from HongQ ends up coming through. And would be surprised if he is not given the player of the game just based off of his performance. And, you know, Tarzan being caught to start that off, obviously going to be something that we have to talk about as well. We've been praising this guy as an MVP candidate. Didn't feel like he really was able to get his feet under him on this Skarner game.
And first loss on the Skarner as well. He has won every single game this split on the pick, and this is his first time taking the L on that one. And it did kind of feel that way even after he split the map early on with that level 1 invade. It never felt like he was able to get a bunch of influence in the bot lane. It felt like the Camille was able to have more of a say in how the lanes went early on than him. And that just gave more room over to JunJia to kind of do his thing, to bide his time and look for a lot of those effective engages later on in the game. So a lot of credit, I think, can also be given over to Vampire for just having so much early influence to essentially be a second jungler and let the actual jungler get and accumulate resources that paid off later in the game. You know, we're investing here, I guess, on JDG is the moral of the story.
Yeah, I mean, they've been scaling in this season specifically. Not necessarily the tail of a team that you would normally say, like, should be scaling into the season, because this is a roster that has stuck together throughout the entire year. But you can see with just a little bit of momentum that they are riding, things are looking good for them. I was wondering if maybe they give the Pog over to Xiaoxu for his laning phase domination, but HongQ in these team fights just was a different beast.
He really was. And the graphic that we ran all the way back in Demacia Cup of this year, Grapes, where we said that he was really good on the Bird Champions, the Azir, the HongQ graphic, I believe is what we called it, with the Anivia, the Azir, the Swain, all of these bird-themed characters. He just is absolutely insane on all 3 of them. It continues to age like wine, and I will forever be grateful that I was the one to come up with the idea for such a graphic.
And as the bird theme caster, I'm sure you're happy about that one as well. Congratulations here to HongQ and to JD Gaming for taking the opening matchup of this best of 3. But remember that when these two teams first faced off, it was also JDG who won game 1. AL able to take that series by winning the next 2 games. We'll see if they'll be able to do the same in this game number 2 as we come back from a break in a few short minutes on LPL English.